right now. Okay, so today we want to cover stuff that's going to be on the midterm. Just go over it again. We're going to introduce you to the idea of seventh chords in more detail, and a few other things that are coming up in the term, and then yeah, and then you get into breakout rooms, and you'll be randomly assigned there, and you will test each other on the chords. So the first thing is, just as a heads up, I'll share screen here. You want to make sure that you have gone over to the announcements, and let's see, video, midterm tests, midterm, there it is, the checklist, right? So if you're looking at the announcements here, it said, here's a checklist of the chords you'll be testing each other, and then there's the link right there. You're going to need that. It's got multiples on there. You just need one or two so that you can test each other and say, did they play this? So did they know what it was, and did they play it correctly, right? So you have time now to kind of stealthily go and do that, right? Stop share right there. But first, let's just talk about the midterm, performance midterm, and written midterm. Written's kind of a funny thing because it's all online now. There are videos covering all of this and quizzes that confirm that you know what's going on, but I just wanted to highlight those again. So there are two videos that are, hey Isaac, just want to let you know that we're recording this for people that are not able to attend today. So if you don't want to be on screen, you can turn your camera off. That's up to you. It's up to you, but fair warning, right? So so when we go over to the training videos, 14A and 14B go over perfectly exactly what's going to happen in the performance midterm, right? So you're going to get online with me for 15 minutes, and I've already put up a schedule, and I need you guys to confirm that those times are going to be okay. I'm going to go on the idea that if you don't confirm anything with me, you've looked at the schedule and you're fine with the time. But if you're going like, no, I work at that time, or I have a conflict with another class, we can go earlier, we can go just a little bit later, we can figure out a time. So by Monday, though, I'd like to finalize that schedule, which is Thursday. Basically, it's from about 9 to noon. Everybody's got time there, and anyhow, these two videos go over everything, exactly what happens. So the first thing is you'll come in and we'll check your tuning, and that's for points, and then you'll do a C major scale for me, right? And then you'll test on chords, just like we're testing today. So part of today, the reason we want to do this Zoom meeting is, we want to make sure that you're able to get your camera set up like this properly so that the other person can see your hands, and then they can test you and you can play, and that's all working. It fixes the bugs right now. If you know that that's not working for whatever reason, you can make adjustments there. Also, it simulates it for you, so you know what's coming up. Not just know, but have experienced it. And if you stumble on any of these chords, then you know what to fix, right? So it's simulating all these things, and then you'll be playing two songs for me with accompaniment, okay? And those accompaniments are in. Let's see, if I go to topic and I go to modules right here. My modules look bigger than yours because I have a bunch of unpublished stuff you can't see. But if you look at all about the midterm module right there, it's midterm accompaniments. These are tightened up. They don't have any me talking ahead of time. Tempos are a little bit more demanding, not much. And so you will just simply say, okay, I'm going to play Lavender's Blue. These are exactly the same format as what you did for the performance videos. So remember, Lavender's Blue, you strum the chords and you sang dilly dilly the first time, and on the next time you played the melody, and then we went back halfway through, and then you strummed and sang the last half of it with me again. exactly the same, except you have to do it live now. So I really urge you to, practice those and practice with this a lot, and then put on the Lavender's Blue audio and perform it for increasingly more demanding or nerve-wracking audiences. So start with your cat, and then graduate up to like your siblings or your grandparents that love you a lot, and then try and get on Zoom and play it for friends or, something like that, because that simulates best what's going to happen. If you make a stutter or a fumble, the best thing to do is to practice playing through it. That's actually a skill. Okay. Same thing for Cuddle Doon. Cuddle Doon is a little faster. I'll just play this for you. It goes 1, 2, 1. Okay, and like that. So it's no preamble, you just get to play. If this was not COVID times, I would play that part for you live and we would play together. This is a little less forgiving because if you were to make a small bauble or something like that, I would follow you and stay with you. This accompanist's not going to do that. So over prepare for these. Having nerves and playing it worse in a live test situation or performance situation is normal. And that's one of the things we're simulating throughout this class, not just once, but many times, so that you get better every time. You grow because of it. The stress from the first one, and then it could even go poorly, but then you get to rethink it, redo it, practice again, another attempt at another, either that or something else. Means that you'll deal with performance nerves, and you'll see that you eventually go like, wow, I do get a little nervous when I perform, but I lived through it. I didn't die, right? I got through it, and you can improve the next time and the next time. And that's an important experience for you to have, and growth opportunity that's not easily quantified, but is obvious when it happens for you. So these two things. And then in addition to that, for this grade, you'll put 2 videos up of you doing You and I. And it explains that exactly how to do it in video 14B, and you'll upload those things all by Thursday. Okay. Now, just one last thing about all of this. You might think that I'm testing you on your ability to play Lavender's Blue or Cuddle Doon, but those are actually just vehicles for us to test you on certain things. Like I'm testing you on your ability to tune the uke. That's a core skill that if you can't do, we can't pass you out of the class. And the putting up the You and I recordings. One of them is for you to play the metronome with a play the melody with a really slow metronome. It's like 55. It's like this. I'll grab my metronome here in a second. It's like this slow, right? And you're like, right? And to stay with that and to not rush and things like that. So I'm actually testing you on your ability to play with a click track. For Lavender's Blue, I'm checking your thumb strum to make sure it's in the right position and that it's being played correctly, and you're drawing your finger across the strings, your digit, as opposed to picking or finger picking, right? I know those are all valid techniques, but we have to be very concrete. What are you being tested on? Well, all the core techniques that we've done, plus being able to play those pieces, knowing it well enough that you can get through that in a stress situation. But there's no surprises. We want to see good hand position, not this and not that, right? Good hand position when it's thumb, when it's fingers, when it's picking, when it's strumming. And we want to make sure that all of those things are perfectly displayed and demonstrated so that you can get graded on those. That doesn't mean you can't play the other ways if you want to, but for the class, it's like, what do we mark in music? We mark, the core techniques and things like that. So when I actually go into the grade book, I don't write in for my grade. It's like, I don't sit there and go Cuddle Doon. I say ability to play thumb pick a melody with an accompaniment, right? Or be able to play chords, finger strum, and sing the pennies Cuddle Doon at Nick, again, with an accompaniment, which means you can play in time with somebody else, which means when you've learned this well enough, you don't slow down at a difficult spot. Um, yeah, so we're asking for those core techniques to be demonstrated in real time, and I can only think that sports and maybe nursing are the only other two places that ask this of you, you know, real-time demonstration of fluency and skills. But that's how you know that you're doing well. Okay. And that's that right there. There will be videos next week about the written midterm. It's got to be done by the same day. We want to have the midterm wrapped up by next Thursday. And hold on, I think there's a chat. Somebody had a question. Do you want us to turn cameras on? Lauren, you don't have to turn cameras on because I'm recording this. You know, people might not be comfortable with that. Also, it does help bandwidth, I think, for you if you don't data stream as well. So you're good. Um, you will turn cameras on when you get into the rooms to test with each other. Okay, so I'm gonna, you know, there will be actual videos that go over everything in great detail of the different kind of tests, but I'm gonna just cheat and show you that ahead of time a little bit as well. So there are 4 quizzes that will show up for your written thing, and yeah, let's see. So number 1, number 3, number 4. Where's number 1? Right there's number 1. Rhythm and counting. And like I said, there's a couple of videos that go over this in great detail, but I'm going to point out a couple things that I've seen that I want to make sure that you're aware of and think about fixing now this weekend. So it says no notes, packet materials, they're closed book, right? You may have pencils, blah, 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 blah. One question on this test requires you to record yourself playing a rhythm in time with a metronome. You will need a metronome and a way to record and upload the audio. Video is fine, but not necessary. And you only get 1 attempt at this. So it requires you also to listen to an audio file. So I'm previewing that ahead of time. I'm going to show you kind of what the questions look like. It's like rhythms and countings, and you have to pick the right one. And then, well, how many of these notes are equivalent there? So math, and how many there? Got to know what a dot does, right? And then here's rhythms. I perform them, and you tell me which one that I did. And finally, you have to play a rhythm and upload it. So the reason I want you to see that is because I want you to see that everything that we're testing you on is exactly what we've been working on in class. I have a personal disdain for people that teachers a little bit that say, learn this, learn this, learn this, learn this, and then they go on the midterm big exams, and then they say, oh, this is nothing you've ever seen before. I want to see how you think, and I just think that's lazy. They haven't thought about what's really important in curriculum, because they should be teaching you what's really important and then giving you an opportunity to demonstrate your competency on that. You know, and nowhere is that truer now than in a time where everything's online. So we have to be very careful with that. Test 2 is that somebody else trying to get in? No, test 2 is all about triads. It's like match the triad type with the correct formula of half steps. So I'm going to highlight that in a minute, just like I'm going to highlight one thing in rhythm. Match the triad name with the correct spelling. I'm going to show you what that looks like. Like there's all the different kinds of spelling C chords and C sharp chords and E chords and stuff like that, right? And then you have to match it to the correct spelling. So let's just let you know that we are recording this for people that can't make it today. So if you don't want your face in the video, you should turn off your camera. That's up to you though, it's optional, right? Just fair warning. Okay. And then match triad name. So that's all spelling matching. And then you get to look at chords and say, well, what are those? And then look at chords on the ukulele and say, what are those? Then what are those and what are those? So it's exactly what you've been training to do. And they're practical skills, reading chord charts, right? Naming them all, okay? From what you see there. And then notes and scales. So, scales in their descriptions is your flashcards, names of notes on the keyboard, more names of notes on the keyboard, common errors when spelling scales. So, you'll have to say, this is what they did wrong. This is what they did wrong. And you should be self-aware when you're doing your scales. Here's where I could make a mistake. Here's a typical mistake. And it could be notation. It could be conceptual. It could be reading the clef wrong, putting the accidentals on the wrong sides of notes. So those are all, things. And if you're current in the class and all the curriculum makes great sense to you and you're not losing points for little detail kind of things, and you'll know that because there's a lot of them that you have to self-mark, right? Then you should expect that there shouldn't be much here that's a surprise. It's testing you on what we've been working on. All right, now I want to just highlight one thing about rhythm and then one thing about triad theory. And again, this will be gone over in the videos, but I want to get this out in front right now. There's a very common mistake. I'm going to go to my other camera and I'm going to stop the screen share as well. There's a common mistake that happens when we do rhythms. And I want to show you what that is right now and hopefully get that addressed. I think maybe Ma got kicked. All right. So when you see a rhythm, I'm going to put ourselves in 4/4 time, and you see this rhythm right here and this rhythm like this. Okay. And you're asked to count that. This is much more confusing because it's not always clear where the beats are. So I'm just going to go, and like I said, there's a video that goes over this a lot. Chord evaluation, I know them fairly well. Let me spot, yeah, that's true. This comment from Emily. Test to make a video instead. Sorry, but well, like I was explaining though, we're trying to simulate performance nerves and things like that. And I'll address that again. We over prepare. We think about better ways, and it sucks. And then you get over it too because you live through it. Let me talk about that again in a minute. Let's talk about this right here. It's important that each beat is visible, okay, is written. And if it's on a note, you just put it in there, like that's one right there for sure, right? Okay. And if it's not, like if 2 is not on a note, it's still going to be there, but you put a parentheses around it, right? If 3 is not going to be there or 4 is not going to be there, they're either going to be there with parentheses or they're going to be under a note specifically, and as which you're good. Let me give you a simple example of that. If I'm in this rhythm right here, right, then I go 1. 2 is in the middle of this right here, and it doesn't get rearticulated. It has to be written in there so that we know where the beats are, and then 3, and then 4. Because these are underneath notes where they actually happen on those beats, we're good. But if you get something that looks like this, that's going to be marked improperly. I want to know where beat 2 is, and I want to know if I articulate it or not. Okay. Most people get that as a concept until we have to do it with a more complicated rhythm. Now remember, between the beats is and. Okay. So I'm going to put in the counting for this, and then I'm going to talk about what usually happens. Okay. So people get confused on where to put this because it's not clear what to do with the dot. People get confused on where to put that because it's not clear where the beat is because this is not a full beat, so 4 is somewhere there. If I were going to do this from the ground up, I would write myself a grid for the test, right? And I'd count the grid, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then I would assign however many notes are there. So this is these first 2 right there, the quarter note, and the dot is 50% more. So these guys go there, right? That one is there. That one is eighth note there, which means that one and that one, because that's 2 eighth notes long, are there. And then this last one is going to be there. And then I would write 1. Now, if an and is not on a note, we don't write it. Remember in that other example we had where we did this, 1, 2, 3, and 4. We didn't write the ands anywhere because they're not being articulated, so we don't write them in. Each beat gets written in, ands only get written in when they're on notes. So getting back to here, I'd see that this is it, so I'd write a 1. I wouldn't worry about this. I need this in here, but it's not on a note, at the beginning of a note. So I put a parenthesis there. That one's there. That one's there. That one's there. This is not on the beginning of a note. It's included in that note like that, and that one there. Okay. So part of it is knowing the dot gives you 50%. Part of it is visualizing in the grid of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and where things are. And then the last thing is, if a beat is not on the beginning of a note, you still have to include it where it goes. And if an and is not on a note, you erase it. All right. That's the main mistake that happens in counting, right? So 1, 2, and 3, right? 1, 2, and 3, and, right? 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and, right? All right. Sorry. There will be an exam, sorry, not exam, a video going over that in detail and also testing you so you can see about your competency there. And the old videos on how to count the goldenrod sheets are also worthy to look at, okay? All right, so then we had this other question about how many half steps are in a triad. And, you know, there's 4 triads. There's major triads, there's minor triads, there's augmented triads, which we don't use too much, at least at the beginning, and then we have diminished triads. And we have 3 notes, root, third, fifth, on each one of these, okay? It's asking how many half steps are between here and here. And we learned originally that this is 4 half steps and 3 half steps. And this was 3 half steps and 4 half steps. This is 3 and 3, and this is 4 and 4. And I don't think we've mentioned that specifically, but it's 4 and 4, okay? This would be a great thing to just take your phone out right now and take a picture of the screen so you have that, okay? It's important theory to understand, but it's also something that might not be in your memory like hardcore, because we're interested in spelling chords, not talking too much about their theory. And yet you should know this, okay? Let me demonstrate on the keyboard side. If we had C, E, and G, right? That's our C chord. It's a major chord. 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps to get there. And then from here, 1, 2, 3, 3 half steps to get there. That's what we mean, a key or a fret, okay? So, you know, make sure you memorize that for the test. I'm not sure how easy it is to find that information elsewhere, and I don't want you to be blindsided by that. And that's all we're going to do on midterm stuff right now. All right. So then I want to talk to you about 7th chords. Here's what a 7th chord is. We've sort of brushed on this already. By the way, this is not on your midterm. Technically, the midway through the term is done right now. Like as of today, we'll be 5 weeks in. And so anything that you learn about 7th chords will not be on the midterm. And we will plow ahead and do new curriculum next week up till Thursday. But that won't be on the midterm. But we still need to move ahead. So you have basically completed your halfway through the term, and you have this next few days to sort of organize and tighten up all those facts and ways to play and technique and things like that. And you'll be tested on Thursday. But we'll move ahead with new curriculum. All right. So a chord is a root, third, and fifth, like C, E, and G, right? And we got that because we went C is 1, we call it the root, D is 2, E is 3. That's why it's called the third. F would be 4, G would be 5. So seventh is just another one up there. G would be 5, A would be 6, so B is 7, right? And that's all there is to, okay? Well, it seems to have dropping problems. It's okay. All right, so there is a seventh chord. Now, before we move on from there, most books say, oh, just, and teachers say, just keep counting up like that. But I want to show you how it's so much easier to count backwards. So I'm going to come back here again. And this is your first step. You don't need to be able to calculate all chords and everything right away. You just need to know this first step. There's my C, there's my E, and there's my G. Now I can keep going up to B, and you see I'm taking every one, root, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Or I can recognize that that's that note right there. Now, if you have your paper keyboard handy, you get it out, and you can do this exercise with me, or you can do it later on your own. But if you want to calculate your seventh, for instance, D chord, D, F, A. What I do is I take my first finger and I put it on the D, second, and I guess fourth finger like that, D, F, A, and I just put my thumb right there. That's a C, and that's my seventh, D, F, A, C, right? And you can do that for each one of these. So if I want a B chord, B, D, F, right there, I go B, D, F like that. Then I just put my thumb right before the B. A is my seventh. Okay, and that's it. That's all there is to it. Well, okay, I'm lying. There's a little more to it than that. But that's how you calculate your seventh. That's all you need to be able to do is step backwards one. Now, I just want to point one more thing out here, and this is where we're headed. But for right now, just like think, if I say E chord with a seventh, you go E, G, B, and you think backwards, it's a D, right? Okay, so let me look at this again. C, E, G, and B. This is 4 plus 3 right there. And this is minus 1 right there. So I have a major triad plus minus 1. We call that a major seventh, but don't worry about that right now. That's specific, just like these half steps make a difference here in what quality the sound of the chord is. The distance down from the root to the seventh also makes a difference in the sound. Let me show you a different one right here. D, F, A, right? C. Well, this is 3 plus 4. This is a minor triad, and this is minus 2. I went down 1, 2 half steps. All of these combinations of the kind of triad you use, major, minor, diminished, augmented, and the distance down to the seventh, changes the flavor or recipe or quality of the chords. Okay, and I just want to show you the most important one that we're going to see right off the bat, and that is a major triad right there, 4 plus 3, and minus 2, or a whole step down. We call this the dominant seventh chord, a major triad plus a whole step down. And when you see a chord symbol that says, like you'll be testing today on C and C major 7 and C7 and C6, those are all chords you're getting tested on today. When you see this right here, nothing but a 7, that is dominant 7 right there. This is the 5 chord. The other day we talked about 1 chords and 5 chords, the first chord in the scale being the most important and the 5 chord being the next most important. This is your 5 chord when you see a C7 chord or a G7 chord or an A7 chord. No major, minor, just that, okay? And its job is to point you towards home, or where, you know, that is. So remember this? You guys did this very recently, right? I'll play this for you. It's the chord transcription. Your choices were C, C7, D7, F, and G7. And it goes, your cheating heart will make you weep. You'll cry and cry and try to sleep. So I'm in the key of C. And I know that not just because I started on C, but this G7 here is a GBD with a whole step down F. And that is the 5 chord, or the dominant 7 chord in the key of C. And it takes you back to C. Okay, that's the job. It says that's home right there. Okay, and if we keep going through here, right? But sleep won't come the whole night through. Your cheating heart will tell on you. End of section. Now the next section is harmonically unstable. It's pushing us around to different places and giving us a lot of forward motion. And so notice that the next chord is C7. C used to be home. It used to be 1. When you put the dominant 7, it sounds different, and it's pushing us somewhere else. It's now a 5 chord. In other words, this piece of music temporarily changes where we hear home. If it does it for a long time, we've actually changed to a new scale and key. If it does it for a short time, it's temporarily pushing us to another place. And in this case, C7, now I want you to think about this, F scale, F, G, A, B flat, C. C7 is the 5 chord form for F, if I'm in the scale of F, where I'm headed to right now. So just for the bridge here, it's going to say, oh, it's stormy weather now. We're not sure where home is. Let's push ourselves forward. And so this 1 chord C will change flavor. So from heart will tell on you, heart will tell on you. Now when you hear this, that's your ears saying, that's not a 1 chord anymore, that's a 5 chord. When tears come down like falling rain. So we're not sure if we're in the key of C or we're in the key of F right now, because, you know, C's are prominent, but we had a C7 pushing us to F. Now look here for a moment. D7 would be a D major triad, D, F sharp, A, and a whole step down, C. Okay, that's also another 5 chord. Okay, because it's a dominant 7 form, right? Now, if you think about that, you got to get good at backwards math. If D is 5, what's 1? You can cheat and look ahead. Answer is G, isn't it? G, A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it says temporarily, let's pretend we're going to make F home, right? And then temporarily, let's pretend to make G home. And then when we get here, G is actually telling us, no, let's go back. So the whole section's unstable, right? So when tears come down like falling rain, now listen, you'll toss around and call my name, right? And so we can push ourselves harmonically, musically. It gets done all the time. All right, and that's it. So as a concept, let's just review. If you add a 7th to a chord, you have a triad and you add a 7th to it, you get a 7th chord. Depending on the quality of the triad, major, minor, diminished, augmented, and the distance to the 7th, right? Down a half step, down a whole step, even down 1.5 steps. You combine those together and you get mad music alchemy, and you get different qualities of chords. The most important one, which I've already rubbed out with my finger here, is when you have a major triad and a whole step down from the root. We actually call that a minor 7, but don't worry about that right now. and that's called the dominant 7, and that's our 5-chord form, which always tells us the next chord is going to be home, right? What do you need to get from this? Well, the concept of this, and I'd start practicing this. If I want an E chord with a 7th on it, then I would go like this: E, G, B, D. If I wanted an F chord with a 7th on it, I'd go F, A, C, E, right? And so on. Get good at calculating the 7th. Don't worry about this whole thing. We'll get into it in much more detail later. But as a concept and sort of a lead, that's where we're headed to. Okay. Hopefully that's exciting for you, because in a matter of no time at all, you'll be doing, what can I say? You'll be doing like any chord on any lead sheet and knowing what it is and knowing how to spell it. And then if we're doing our job right, you'll know how to harmonize with it and also what it implicates in terms of what scale it is. And then, you know, what you can do with it afterwards is completely up to your imagination. I'll give you one more example by previewing a song that you get to do next half. You might note that your packet is starting to run out and you don't have new songs. That's because in the new halfway through the term, I'll give you new songs to do, and you'll download and print them and stuff. And a few new worksheets, but not too many, not like the whole packet. So here's a song that we'll do. When marimba rhythm starts to play, dance with me, make me sway, like a lazy ocean hugs the shore. Hold me close, sway me more. Yeah, I hope you guys know that song. It's pretty famous. Then it goes, like a flower bending in the trees, bend with me, sway with ease. When we dance, you have a way with me. Stay with me, sway with me. Okay, now I want to just point this out and tie it back to everything else. One of the things about songs in the second half of the term is we'll be doing minor scales and minor keys, and this is in minor. So the first chord here, can you see this? Can anybody, this is one you get tested on. Go ahead and type in chat if you know what that is. If I play that, I'm moving my hand apart so you can see better. What's that chord? You're getting tested on it, I think. A minor. Yeah, that's home. Now you don't know this chord yet, but that's E7. Now I want you to think about how far away from A, which is home, E7 is. Can you count up the scale? A, B, C, D, E. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This song is completely made up of 1 and 5, and it's a dominant 7 chord, the 5-chord form, right? And that goes back and forth between them, and it makes this very famous, you know, and flavorful song, right? So it's like sway with me, okay? Now I'm going to play you the bridge, and I want you, you know these chords, and if you can see on the screen properly, then you'll see it goes like this. Other dancers may be on the floor, dear, but my eyes will see only you. Only you have that. So what were the chords there? Goes, other dancers may be on the floor. Can anybody see that? Yeah, Jose's got that. Is he right? Is that a G7? G7, right? Dear, but my eyes will see only you. C chord. Now, why those two chords? G7 is your 5 chord. You know that because that's the 5-chord form. Pushes you to the 1 chord. Because the bridge is not in A minor anymore, it's in the key of C. And so to help us hear that, 5 chord, 1 chord, right? So the bridge goes, other dancers may be on the floor, dear, but my eyes will see only you. Only you have that magic technique. Can you hear that's not C anymore? Does anybody remember what this chord is? I played it at the beginning. E7. And that's the 5-chord form, and that's telling us that we're getting ready to go back to A minor. So watch as I play the bridge. It goes, other dancers made G7. Dear, but my eyes will see only you, C chord. Now they're saying, we're just kidding. This really is a piece about A minor. So only you have that magic technique. So they throw the E7 back on, which is telling us that we're going to A minor. When we sway, I go weak. I can hear the sound of violins long before it begins. Make me thrill is only you know how. Sway me now. Right? So 1 and 5 and organizing and memorizing is super important because you don't have to remember, you know, like, oh, this chord and this chord and this chord. You hear functions and then you just apply chords to them. Right? Okay. No, I hope that's exciting for you. I mean, because you're really at this great place. If you're current in the class and you understand what's going on here, you're going to become like explosively fluent in the next couple weeks here. And that's pretty exciting. All right. I would like to demo the test for you and then put you in rooms real quick. Okay. So you should have your checklist for you. I'm going to see if I can find my checklist. Okay. In fact, I will, I'm just going to go over here to my checklist. And I'm going to pretend that I am both the tester and the testee. Okay. So I have my list right here and it says person being tested. So I'm going to write Youll Iwasa there. Okay. And then it says, can you please play the C chord? So I'll go, yep, just like this. That's all you do. Now you got to make sure your fingerings are right. And you got to make sure that you're playing the right chord, right? Play the F chord. Okay. Play the A minor chord. Play the G6 or E minor 7. They're the same chord. Play the C6 or A minor 7. Play the C major 7. That's 2. Don't be chasing around with first finger. That's your second finger until we get to more advanced stuff. Next column, A chord. D minor. Now, many people will play it with 2 fingers, and that's the normal way. If they cover it with both like that, like I've got these sort of corpulent, stubby, fat Japanese fingers, right? Like that, that's fine too. G, A7, G7, and C7, just like that, okay? So if a person goes like, is it this? And they get it right, I think that's fine. But if they kind of get it wrong, or they take more than 5 seconds to figure out a chord, you really don't know the chord. And we want you to know that today. Now, when you get on Zoom with me next Thursday, this is exactly what I'm going to do. Please play this. Please play that. Please play this. And we'll just go through the list. So you're simulating today so you know exactly where you stand on that. I want you to have that experience. To what Celeste said, yeah, you're going to be nervous and it might make your head trip up. We need you to have that experience today so that you can say, I did good on this and this and this and this. These few chords, when I got nervous, I messed up, because we need to know that now so you can focus on that, fix that. We need, we need you to be perfect on Thursday. Hopefully really good today. Many of you are going to be fine, but otherwise really excellent. Now, I'm going to put you in groups of 3 today because I want to have 2 people at least watching the other person. Only one person needs to test, and then you go take a reporting quiz and you'll talk about the other person and yourself too. But I want to have 2 people watching the other person because 2 people are more likely to catch a mistake if there is one. We're not here to go like, ha, 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 you suck, I'm better than you. That's not it at all. We need you to do a good job of assessing each other so that if somebody's missing a chord or something, you kind of go like, yeah, this is not right. And at the end, very quickly, you can say, here's what it looks like, you know, and you can help them that way. So important to have these experiences now. Please don't be afraid unnecessarily of assessment. Assessment is so good. We all want to do well. We all want to think well of ourselves, but I can just tell you that the failure is superb. Just by way of like giving you this at the end. When I got out of school, actually, when I was in school, this has got to do with failure. Not that I failed any classes in there. Don't worry about that. Or you can have confidence in my skills. But as I was finishing my master's degree in composition at BYU, I had 2 kids, and we wanted to have another one. And everybody was telling me, Joel, you can't get a job. There's 500 people out there with doctoral degrees that'll be competing for your jobs. They won't even look at you. And that's true to a certain extent. Some schools will just say, we don't want anybody less than a doctoral degree. And, you know, and I was ready to switch and go into IT and become a Microsoft engineer or something like that. My wife took me aside, as insightful and smart as she always is, and says, Joel, you haven't even tried looking at jobs. You haven't tried applying. You haven't competed. You don't know, right? Why don't you try first? And she was right. And my professors were all wrong. And I have a binder of about somewhere between 40 and 50 job applications that I sent off to anything that looked anything remotely like what I could do or might be qualified for. And I got about like 35, 37 that just said, we chose somebody else. Thank you for applying, or you don't meet the minimum requirements. And then I got a job interview in Kansas City, Missouri for a school there. And I got one in Illinois that they said, yeah, come on out. And I got one in California. And I went to the one in Missouri first. Missouri, as half the people say there. And I did fine. I think I came second out of all the interviewees. I way overtaught. My teaching demo and thing was me trying to prove that I was smart enough, and I taught stuff that should be taught at grad school, not for community colleges and things. And they were kind enough to talk to me and say, yeah, this is over our heads and things. And I learned a lot from that. And then I went to Illinois and I got that job because of the failures that I had the first time. And then and revising and thinking, not just failing, but then improving, thinking, what do I need to do differently? And I did active training and active targeted things, and I smoked that job. And California called and I said, I'm not coming out, you know. And so I keep my binder of shame. Every job application, every rejection letter, it's about yay thick now. And you know, I try and share. That's a cat. Yes, I have a cat. Sorry. Because you know, you need the failures to really get a good assessment so you can improve. So go in, enjoy feeling nervous now so you can feel a little less nervous next week when you're with me. So I'm going to stop recording now. Okay. And